The Chase Ink Cash is one of the most sought after business credit cards that Chase offers. As many of y'all probably know, it is coming right now with its best welcome offer it's ever had on the card, and I knew that I personally could not miss out on this offer, so on December 30th of 2022, I applied for the Chase Ink Cash card and was approved. That being said, as all of us here do on YouTube, I will be doing an unboxing of the Chase Ink Cash here today so you can see the card live in the flesh, or I guess in the plastic I should say. But also the way that this card looks actually did surprise me, so hopefully this will be at least somewhat interesting to y'all, even if you've seen a ton of these videos already. But before we get into that, let me tell you a little bit about why I actually applied for this card when I did. So the main reason that I chose to apply for it right before the beginning of the new year is because on December 20th of 2022, I dropped under 524, putting me at 424. And although we had heard that you could maybe get approved for this card while above 524, along with the other Chase Ink cards, I knew that I would be dropping under 524 within the same week anyways. Instead of trying to rush and take a chance on it right whenever I first heard that news, I waited a few days to see if I could line up any big purchases I needed to make or my family needed to make so that I could hit this welcome bonus as fast as possible without having to overspend. But I did still have a little bit of a pep in my step because I had a feeling that the welcome offers on these no annual fee Chase Ink business cards were going to expire very soon. A big part of me didn't even think that these welcome offers would last until the new year, so I wanted to apply for it before then so I wasn't having some big regrets whenever I started 2023. So it really was the perfect storm of the exact right timing of me dropping under 524 as well as me being in the market for the Chase Ink Cash when it does have the highest welcome offer available right now. And just so y'all know, as of January 9th of 2023, I just checked the links down in my description to see that the welcome offer is still valid, the 90,000 point welcome offer that I'm talking about here today, which is really good news, and I hope I get this video out in time for y'all to take advantage of this welcome offer before it expires. But it's been around for a couple months now, and I'm honestly not sure how much longer it's going to last. So I feel like my mental target would probably be the end of January to when they'll actually end these offers. If you do want to jump on it before them and want to help support the channel, please use the links down in the description to learn more about how to apply for the card. So while we're here, I figured I might as well cover the benefits and perks that this card comes with for those of y'all that are new to the card and may not have heard of it before. The main and most important categories that I plan on using this card in are going to be the 5% cashback categories, and those categories are for office supply stores, internet, cable, and phone services every year. On top of that, it does also get you 2% back at gas stations and restaurants every year, and then 1% back on everything else. Those 5% and 2% categories are capped at a combined total of $25,000 worth of spend. But for those of y'all with smaller businesses like myself, or if you're applying as a sole proprietor and don't plan on putting a ton of spend on this card, you shouldn't have a problem with that cap, being that it is pretty high. On top of that, it comes with a lot of travel and purchase coverages. One of the main ones that people talk about on this card is going to be the auto rental collision damage waiver. And since the coverage that this benefit gives you is primary, that allows you to deny all the extra insurance that the car rental companies try to put on you whenever you go to rent the car. So that's always good news. Other notable benefits being the purchase protection and extended warranty protection that will be helpful if you are a smaller business and need these coverages on business credit cards that you don't have yet. Now, one of the most important things to note is that all of the points that you earn on this card are Chase's Ultimate Rewards points. And what that means is that all of the points that you earn on this card can be combined with all other Chase Ultimate Rewards point earning cards, including the personal cards. So what I'll be doing is taking my welcome bonus and all the points I accumulate on this card and transferring it over to my Chase Sapphire Preferred on the personal side. What that'll do will allow me to get at least a 25% boost on all of my points through the travel portal, but it will also allow me to transfer all these points out to travel partners and get at least 2 cents or more in value. Of course, depending on the trips that you book, but for the most part, 2 cents per point is a pretty conservative average. What that means is that this 90,000 Chase point offer is actually going to be worth at least $1,800 to me if I do transfer them out to travel partners. And of course, that number is going to fluctuate, but that is a conservative estimate, so I could probably get even more value than that. Just remember that in order to transfer those points out to travel partners, you'll need either the Chase Sapphire Preferred, Chase Sapphire Reserve, or the Chase Ink Preferred cards. And being that these are Chase points, once again, I can always redeem them for cash back at 1 cent per point, which is still pretty good, especially in comparison to lenders like Amex, where you only get 0.6 cents per point unless you have a special credit card to get you added benefits. But for those of y'all that don't know by now, yes, I am a bit of a Chase fanboy just because I feel like their points are super flexible and the most easy to use and get a ton of value out of. I am coming to the dark side of Amex more and more every day, it feels like, but to me, I feel like Chase's cards just win on the simplicity and ease of use of their points, which I love. Now that we've covered this card in a little bit more detail, let me tell you my data points at the time of application and then my data points after the application. Whenever I applied for this card, my TransUnion score was a 758 with only 2 hard inquiries, and my Equifax score was a 759 with 0 hard inquiries. As for Experian, my credit score was a 741 with them with 2 hard inquiries as well. And obviously those data points alone aren't going to be enough for you to also get approved, but with some positive credit history behind me and likely due to the fact that I do actually have a business credit profile already since I got the Amex Blue Business Plus back in October of last year, this will at least give you a rough estimate of what you could do to get approved for this card. But if you want to know what exactly you should put on the application to help the odds of you being approved, then of course I'd recommend that you watch the video that that I did about the application process whenever I did it and got approved. As for my data points right now after the application went through and I got approved for the card, my TransUnion credit score is actually sitting at a 764 with the same number of hard inquiries at 2. My Equifax score has actually gone up as well to 766 with 0 hard inquiries still. And then my Experian credit score has dropped 5 points to 736 because I did get a hard inquiry on my Experian credit report. Chase is one of those lenders that is infamous for doing a hard pull for just about everything you do with them, so I would expect that you get a hard pull on at least one of the bureaus, probably Experian, because in my history with Chase, that is what they pull the most frequently for me. Also, I forgot to mention this earlier, but it is important to note that since this is a business credit card, this card is not going to be adding to my 524 count. Unfortunately, I did get a hard pull on my personal credit report with this, but after that initial hard pull, there's going to be no relationship between this new Chasing Cash card that I have and my personal credit report after this point. That's because business credit cards will be completely separate from your personal accounts, which is why, for one, it doesn't increase your 524 status to add these cards, but it also makes it to where anything you do on these cards, like having a high utilization or anything like that, is not going to affect your personal credit score. However, I'd still recommend obviously keeping smart financial habits and paying these cards off early like you normally would with your personal cards. But just remember that these business credit cards are not going to affect your personal credit report like a personal credit card would. And that's the case for like 99% of business credit cards. Some lenders' credit cards do report to personal credit, so make sure you do your research before applying for them. You're going to be safe with companies like Chase and Amex, but I know there are some other lenders that are not so lenient on that. But they also don't always have the best business credit cards, so you might not want those anyways. I also wanted to point out a couple of the important numbers that most people are confused about whenever I did this application. And to be honest, I can't remember the exact numbers I put on this application, even though it was only like a week and a half ago. But I can tell you that I reported having this business for less than a year. My annual business revenue was under $20,000, and my expected monthly expenses were under $1,000 a month. So again, this isn't going to say that if you put those numbers, you're going to get approved for this card, but it worked for me, so maybe it'll work for you too. All of those fields you're going to want to be as honest as possible with, but I know for me, whenever I was applying for my first business cards, I at least found some comfort in knowing what other people put, so I thought I might as well share that with y'all here. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch my camera to a top-down view so you can see me unboxing this credit card in first person. Or should I say unenveloping this credit card? Shout out to you, Danny. Okay, so now let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. First of all, whenever I saw this Westerville, Ohio stamp here, I knew that I got my Chase credit card in the mail finally, because apparently that's where they send the majority of their credit cards out of. So if you were curious about that before, well, now you know. But of course, I already opened up the envelope to go ahead and black out all of my information. So I'm not necessarily opening it from scratch, but hopefully you'll forgive me because I want to stay private with my information. I think that's pretty understandable though. But let's go ahead and dive into the unboxing process. So first, of course, we're going to have the paper that the credit card actually comes in. And I started to highlight some things here that might be of note to you. First of all, it shows you that your credit access line is right here on the front of the page. And for me, the credit limit that I got was only $3,000, which I was kind of sad about. But after talking with one of my friends that works at Chase, he said that this is actually a pretty normal starting credit limit that they have if you don't have any business cards with them before. And according to some of y'all that commented on my application video, that sounds like it's the same for y'all. Before we look at this card, I'm going to of course go through the other documents first because that is the grand finale of the whole video. But before you skip over to it, like I know you will, you might as well look through this because there are some interesting documents in here that you might want to know about, particularly if you're concerned about using this card for business or personal purchases, so stick around for that. But the next document that we have here is going to be my Cardmember Agreement that lays out some of the details of this card a little bit better. First of all, as you can see here, it does have a 0% intro APR period for the first 12 months of having this card, which I didn't even know about. And then after that, it's 20.99%. For those of y'all that know me, you know that I do not care about these interest rates that they list here because I never plan on ever paying interest to a bank because I always pay off my credit cards on time and in full every single month. I mean, I haven't even personally used a 0% intro APR period, and I know some of y'all can use that to your advantage, but for me, I just rather stick to the basics and pay off my card when I'm supposed to. Also, other things to note is that of course it has no annual fee, which is great. And then here are some of the transaction fees and penalty fees that I thought might be of note to you. I'm pretty sure they actually raised these penalty fees recently, as well as probably the transaction fees as well. So I guess the recession is hitting us all, even Chase. Then after that, we have some sort of document where Chase basically just tells you what they do with your personal information. Probably kind of a privacy agreement of sorts, I imagine. Nothing super interesting here, but you know, it is there. Maybe you should read through it all. I don't know. I mean, it could be a nice like Sunday reading or something like that for you, but I'm gonna pretend like I already did that. Then after that, we come to the little pamphlet that they give you talking about all of the perks and benefits of your new card. First of all, I want y'all to look at this and remember what this card design looks like and see what it looks like in person compared to that, because I was a little bit surprised. But of course, this talks about everything we already talked about with the card. It just lays it out in a physical way that is kind of nice to look at. But since we already covered this earlier in the video, it's nothing to really worry about. I'm gonna actually save this business card agreement for a second because that is actually a really interesting document that I hadn't really read before with my other business credit card that I got. But this is my first business credit card with Chase, so maybe it's just different between lenders. After that, we do have a full guide to the benefits, which goes a lot more in depth about all those benefits that we talked about earlier in the video. And once again, I don't necessarily have the time to read this, but you know, maybe if I'm bored one day, I'll take a look at it. It does provide helpful information about how you can like file claims and stuff like that though. So if you are somebody that needs to do that, this is a good place to look, even if you didn't find it online for some reason. But yeah, so we have the guide to benefits there. And now we come to the business card agreement, which I found pretty interesting. Of course, it's first going to start out by giving you like important definitions and stuff like that. But this is the most important thing that I found in this document. This talks about how exactly you should be using your credit card. And what it says here is that you can use your account in the following ways. Your account is a business account and should only be used for business transactions and not for personal, family, or household purposes. You cannot use your account for legal purposes. So luckily I got the second part of that covered. But as for the first part, I know a lot of people always ask if you can use your business credit cards for personal expenses. And what this guide is telling you is that you cannot do that. But if you go around and start reading online on places like Reddit, you're going to see that a lot of people use these business credit cards for their business and personal purchases. And some people only get them for personal purchases. And basically my 2 cents on that is it's going to come down to what you're comfortable with doing. If you're someone that reads a line like this and it freaks you out and you just don't want to be part of a horror story where you get your Chase cards revoked and everything like that, then maybe you should only use this for business purchases. However, at the end of the day, the banks are going to make money every single time you swipe their cards. So for the most part, they're not going to really care how you use your business credit cards. Of course, they're going to say that because this is what the credit card is. It is a business credit card, but I would not stress too much about it. The place where things get a little bit wonky is if you start to write off every single purchase that you put on this card, even if you use it for personal expenses. That I would definitely not recommend that you do. But if you do end up putting personal charges on these cards, I'd be willing to bet that they're not going to hunt you down for that. That's just my take on it though. And if you're not comfortable with it, then maybe you shouldn't do this. But for me, I'm going to be using this card mainly for my business purchases after I hit the welcome bonus spend on it. Obviously, I'll report back to you if I have issues, but based on what I've read, basically nobody does. Okay, but now that we've gotten through all the most important things that I can think of about the unboxing or unenveloping of this credit card, let's go ahead and reveal the credit card in 3, 2, 1. And here it is. So it actually is a really nice looking credit card, and the little ink logo there does glisten a little bit whenever you shine it in certain lights, as well as this Visa signature logo here on the bottom right as well. I'm gonna go ahead and peel this off of the paper itself. Now I'll be able to see this card up close and personal. Obviously I had to black out some of my information here, but for the most part, this is exactly what the card will look like. A couple of my initial gripes about it is, first of all, that all of the lettering and numbers are embossed, which means they are raised from the card itself. I am just not a big fan of that, and I honestly thought from the pictures that we saw earlier, like this one for example, does not make it look like the cards are embossed or that the numbers are on the front of the card. I thought the numbers would be on the back because that's what this card looks like everywhere. But obviously now that I have it in person, I can tell you that that is not the case. It's also a plastic card and is obviously going to be pretty flimsy, but it is what it is. It's a no annual fee card, so what do you expect? Also, you can see, if you remember from my Watch Me Apply video, that I did actually have my name double printed on here by filling it out in the way that I did. Again, I'm not really sure there is a way to avoid this if you're applying as a sole proprietor, but just like my Amex Blue Business Plus, you can see that my name is printed twice on this card, which isn't a big deal to me. And for those that are curious, this is basically what the back of the card looks like. Nothing super special here, just has the Chase logo, the contactless payment logo, as well as the normal stuff you see on a credit card. But overall, I do actually really like the look of this card, especially with the way that it shines. But I do wish it looked a little bit more like this instead, where the numbers might actually be on the back instead of the front, and they wouldn't be embossed, but you know, it is what it is. If this is a card that you want to apply for yourself before this 90K welcome offer expires, then please consider using the links down in my description to help support the channel and learn more about how to apply for these cards. And watch this video next to see my full application process, where I break down what I think you should put in there to help your odds of being approved. Odin and I both want to just say thank you guys so much for watching this video as always. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And of course, we'll catch you guys next time.